2, 3, 4.
Buenos dias, mis hermanos y hermanas, and good morning, my brothers and sisters. This is our 21st episode of the Good Morning Guys podcast. Thanks for joining us on this fine morning or afternoon, evening, or night as we continue discussing the game of life amidst the other games we love to watch and play. I am one of your hosts, the best wish exploiter and Brazilian mountaineer, Lucas Ham. And also, to my left, or my right, depending on which way you're looking, the judge, jury, and executioner of fake news, the shape-shifting, quiet man himself, Patrick Novosel.
Good morning.
And also, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's future best friend / stalker, who can make you laugh in 3 words or less, Ronnie Johantis. And last, but certainly not least, a man with music in his heart and Doctor Who on his brain, our retired little riding champion, Catalina the Great.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Just wow.
Good morning.
Yeah, Catalina's ready to go, a.k.a. Marc Boucher. If this is your first time joining us, I guess so. We're going to have to go with it. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. Studies show that listening to our show produced good morning vibes that will get you through the day ahead. Unless you're not a fan of mornings, then sorry, we can't help you. If it's not your first time...
There's people doing studies on us, not just one study. People are doing studies on this podcast?
Multiple studies. Yeah.
Surprise!
So when is the money coming in? What kind of money are we getting?
That's part of the non-disclosure agreement. It's not until the study's completed that we get the money.
Okay, so they're just in the middle of it. I got it.
Because that's how that
works. Got it. Yep, that's how it works. That's what I Googled it a couple times just to make sure. So, if it's not your first time joining us, then welcome back. If you haven't left by now, you probably never will, unless the world ends sometime soon and you will have bigger things to worry about, or bigger things to be excited about, depending on your eschatological viewpoint. You know what I mean?
Nope.
I do.
What is that? What does that mean?
Eschatological viewpoint, my friend.
No.
End
Is that
times.
some sort of like music genre? What is that?
No, that's
I think I know this one.
Scat that.
in end times.
Yep. Yeah, it's just how you view the end times, how the world's going to end. Anyways, with that, Let's get into the what's news. And let's start with our buddy Ronnie. Ronnie, tell us something good. Like for the 16th time you watch Superman. Ooh.
I did not watch it. But what I will say is I did think about watching it.
That's a step,
How long
I guess.
this time? I think last week was like a half a second. So we're going on.
It's been a while since I thought of it.
It's been a while.
No, so my week, we had a short week for us, only 5 days in between recording. I pretty much didn't do anything. I had some buddies over on Saturday, and we played Call of Duty, pretty much just against each other. That was a pretty good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really good night. And Saturday, I watched the Super Bowl. And
So close,
nearly
so
fell
close
asleep
to
for like
Superman.
3 hours.
Nearly fell asleep.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, did you guys watch the game? It was a very boring game the whole time. Nobody was scoring. Like, it was
late
rough
in the
to watch.
second quarter, and I was downstairs by myself just watching the game. And my wife calls down, and she's like, "Patrick!" And she wakes me up. I was like,
She woke you
how
up.
How long have I been asleep? And I look at the score, still 3-0. I'm like, "Yep, I didn't miss anything."
Oh, jeez.
Single thing. It was just a very boring game. I was actually rooting for the Patriots to win, so I like the outcome just because I think what they do is amazing. But literally, other than that, I have done nothing. So I will pass the torch.
All right.
Who wants to take the mic from here?
Looking for volunteers.
Nobody.
All
right.
I'll take it.
All right,
I'll
Catalina.
go again.
All right.
Yeah, let's hear it, Catalina.
Okay, so yeah, the only major things of note that happened this past week for me, I think it was either Friday or Saturday night. Pat, I think you and I and Matt was there as well, right?
Right.
We did the Anthem demo, the open demo this weekend, which I mean, I enjoyed the game personally. And I'm a little torn as to whether or not I would actually buy it or not. And it sounds like a lot of people are kind of like about it.
So you didn't enjoy it that much. You just enjoyed it enough to play a demo, but not.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, but a lot of that game is kind of circled around, the multiplayer element of it,
Right.
squatting up and that kind of stuff. And it sounded like a lot of people were just kind of on the fence about it. They're like, it's good, but we're not buying it day one or whatever. I'm going to wait till it's on sale.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of sucks the fun out of it for me. But what I played of the demo was fun. It was great. I loved being able to fly around in your javelin, and do all that kind of stuff, and the upgrades and stuff seemed pretty fun. Now, granted, I don't know, because you're only going from level 10 to level 15 in the demo. I don't know what the early stages are like in terms of progression and stuff like that. So I don't know if it'll be around the same or not, but
You're probably
yeah.
just a guy with a jetpack and a helmet, and then you're wearing like a t-shirt and cargo shorts. And you're just flying around like, yeah, it's the actual javelin, and then eventually you upgrade it enough to wear it, and then there you go. That's how the name came to be.
Makes sense, and I will not buy it.
Spoilers.
But I mean, I had a lot of fun with Patrick and Arctic Warlocks, Matt. Definitely had a lot of fun with that. Saturday, of course, was Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it was.
apparently the groundhog did not see his shadow.
Here comes spring.
Yeah.
I always get that
Which-
mixed up every year, like what it means for him to see or not see his shadow. Like he just comes out and he picks his nose, eats some grass, chirps at people, and then runs back into his.
Isn't it
little
when
hole.
he sees his shadow, we have 6 more weeks of winter?
That's correct.
Yeah, because he
Shouldn't
gets
it be
scared, right?
if he sees his shadow,
The sun is shining.
Wouldn't that mean the sun is out?
Yeah, that would make
Yeah,
quick
doesn't-
sense.
Quit confusing the issue with facts, Patrick.
Yeah, don't bring science into this.
Don't try to
How
make this
dare-
scientific.
How dare you use logic, Patrick?
No,
Dare-
hold on.
how
So
dare
go
you.
back to that. You said that if he sees his shadow, he gets scared of it.
That's
Apparently.
that's what I've heard. And so because he gets scared by seeing his shadow, that means, oh no, doom is upon us, and we have 6 more weeks
No.
of winter.
You know
Even
what they
though,
say,
like-
shadows are demons, right? I mean, that's
Whoa,
what
whoa.
they all say.
Apparently, that's what
I'd be
Patrick
scared.
Novosel says.
Fake news.
What I think is the 2 things that are hilarious about this holiday. Number one, the fact is, anytime you see this groundhog, they literally just yank him out of there. How does he even have time to see anything other than this coated, dressed up dude just grabs him, and there's a bunch of people in front of him? How does he have time to see anything? And the other
It's fixed.
yeah.
Well,
it's rigged.
he lives the same day over and over again, so he can see a ton of things.
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Fortunately, he just gets pulled out of that cage to see a shadow every single day.
Phil?
Is that you, Ned?
But the other thing is whenever they have their big ceremony and stuff when the groundhog supposedly comes out and all this stuff, they have all these lights shining on him and stuff. How do you not see your shadow?
That's true.
In that, I feel like
I've never once watched that.
yeah, I've only
Yeah,
seen
you know a lot about that. I never knew there were lights involved. I thought it always happened during the day, so
I've only
Or
ever seen it
in the morning.
after the fact, but like early in the morning like that, it wouldn't be that bright out.
They do take lots of pictures though, so there's a lot of flashes going. With
Yeah.
people's
What if it's
cameras.
cloudy?
I don't
Then
know.
spring is coming because he won't see his shadow.
Yep. But anyway, I don't get my weather from a groundhog, so just saying.
The omnipotent Phil.
Oh, that old Punxsutawney.
I have a
Phil.
serious question. Is a groundhog and a gopher basically the same exact thing?
No, I don't think so.
Fake news. I think it's real. They're the same.
Really?
Thing. Yeah. One's
I
a
don't- I mean,
one's a nickname,
I
and one is the real name.
am not an authority on
I
such
thought
matters.
the gopher was the name of the animal.
I think
I thought
gophers
gopher was
have
the
bigger
nickname.
teeth.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Gopher says
Stump the show.
gophers
I
have
think-
bigger teeth for being able to chop.
Wait,
You know, cut
no.
up wood and stuff.
Groundhogs have the power to predict if spring is coming or winter
Oh,
is
see,
staying.
that's
Gophers don't have that power, so they're like
they don't.
They're from Caddyshack.
they're like squibs. Yes,
Yes,
and
that's
they
where the animal
only
came from.
they can only be found in golf courses.
Mm.
Whereas
Mhm.
groundhogs can be found anywhere, and they can predict the weather.
And anytime a gopher pops out, it's always to Kenny Loggins. I'm all right. Just saying.
Yeah.
That is true.
But, so in the
Wait,
spirit of
hold on. Sorry, I have one more serious question. If they made
Okay,
a
go for
movie,
it.
if they made a movie about Groundhog Day, like about the groundhog, could Dwayne the Rock Johnson play the groundhog?
He probably could.
The
Be a
Rock
huge
says 6
groundhog.
more weeks of winter.
So is this a
Be a-
Pixar movie? Is he like? Are you
He'd be a
talking him?
giant
voicing it?
groundhog.
No, he like plays the groundhog. They put him in a suit, and he comes out of the ground,
That would be.
and he like does the eyebrow thing, and they're like, if his eyebrow goes too high, spring is coming.
Because
If he,
But if it doesn't go high
if he
enough,
gives somebody a
winter is staying.
rock bottom, 6 more weeks of winter.
Yes.
If he calls somebody a jabroni, that's an early spring.
Okay,
But
continue.
in the spirit of Groundhog Day, and the fact that I had never actually watched this movie ever,
I can't believe you've never watched this movie, Mark.
it's just not one of those things like I had heard so much about it, but I wasn't so interested in watching it. But then I talked to my wife, and I was like, let's watch this. And she's like, okay, yeah. And so we watched Groundhog Day, starring Bill Murray.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
And
it was fantastic. Like, I can't believe I waited this long to watch this movie. Like, the story is so well thought out, and obviously Bill Murray is Bill Murray. He does such a great job.
now, since we're talking about it, real quick, do you think now that you've watched it, could you give an elevator pitch? We haven't done an elevator pitch in a long time, and I think it would be very appropriate to give a Groundhog Day, Catalina the Great edition elevator
Yes.
pitch for Groundhog Day.
I think I can.
What are you feeling? Just for our listeners that maybe haven't watched Groundhog Day or they've forgotten what it's about.
So, basically, weatherman who is kind of full of himself.
We're already at my floor. I got to get off the elevator.
Wow.
Man,
Rude.
Ronnie's doing the hardcore elevator pitch moment. I feel like, Mark, you're getting interviewed
Uninterested.
and you just got shot down by your potential boss.
Rude. Rude. Absolutely rude. Anyway,
I'll stay on for a few more floors.
good.
Good.
So Bill Murray, yeah. So Bill Murray plays a weatherman who is kind of full of himself and is kind of forced to travel. I guess this is in Pennsylvania, and he has to travel to Punxsutawney because it's going to be Groundhog Day, and he's covering the whole Groundhog experience. And he's kind of a
You really
he's
gotta,
kind of a
you
jerk.
gotta work on these elevator pitches, man. You've covered like the first 5 minutes.
Okay,
Come on,
I can go
elevator pitch,
shorter.
Mark. Don't think Just give
Okay.
people a taste.
So everybody regroup.
Pompous jerk weatherman gets forced to stay in Punxsutawney and relive Groundhog Day over and over and over again, by therefore humbling himself. There you go. And learning
Okay.
the error of his ways.
All right.
All right. So you thought it was fantastic?
Yes, I did. I thought it was very good.
That makes me feel all happy inside.
I'm glad, Lucas.
It's a good movie.
But yeah, the story was great. All the characters were great. I can't help but see Chris Elliott and be reminded of the fact that he was the Tostitos guy for a long time. Chris Elliott's the cameraman in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he used to be the spokesperson for Tostitos. And he was on Saturday Night Live. But yeah, everything about the movie was great. Just really well thought out and funny. And my wife enjoyed it as well. So it was definitely a great time. And then Sunday night, of course, we went to a Super Bowl party, even though I'm not that big into sports, but it was more so to spend time with family because I went to my sister's house. Got to spend time with them, had the game on, though we weren't really paying a whole lot of attention to it. Played some games and stuff. We watched the halftime show. We watched Adam Levine basically slowly remove several articles of his clothing throughout the entirety of...
Seduce the crowd.
Yes. SpongeBob was involved, and
That was awesome.
yeah, I will say that was a great moment, even though they cut it off at the best part. But but I wasn't too interested in the game. It was more so a time with family. Although I was kind of wanting the Patriots to win because they are my home team. And I was glad they won, although it was apparently a very slow, boring game and very low scoring in terms of how Super Bowls go.
Second lowest scoring in the history of the Super Bowl.
Really? Yikes. I remember seeing a thing online where it was like a picture of a dude with a stick, and he was poking this little image of the Patriots Rams Super Bowl logo, and it's like, come on, do something. There's all sorts of funny little memes like that coming out of that, but yeah, that was pretty much my week was mainly those few things and the Anthem demo, and besides obviously the announced Apex Legends game, which is set in the quote-unquote Titanfall, I guess, universe. I think the next thing on my backlog list that I'm going to jump into is I haven't touched Zelda: A Link Between Worlds, and I've been really wanting to play that. So
breaking out your 3DS.
Yeah, well, I have a 2DS because I didn't have the money to.
One of the
I didn't have
DSs.
the money to spend on a 3DS. So
You
and
were
I
lacking
don't care
one
about the
DS.
3D. I don't need that
Fair
extra
enough.
DS. Yeah,
All right.
I don't really care about the 3D element of it. But as many of you know, I love Zelda games, so I'm excited to play this game. And I was a huge fan of Link to the Past. And this is very much the spiritual successor to that. So I'm excited to play it. But yeah, that was pretty much my week. Patrick, how was your week, sir?
Excuse me. I am along the lines of Ronnie. I didn't do much at all. I mean, this past week was cold. I mean, -20, -30 degrees cold. So we kind of just hung out inside the house this past week. We watched movies. We played games. We played some board games. Built Legos. All the stuff that you do inside when you can't go outside. I watched 3 movies over the weekend. I watched Groundhog Day. I obviously had to watch that on Saturday.
Of course.
And then I rewatched Infinity War.
Nice.
That's just I just love everything about that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then I noticed that Ant-Man and the Wasp is now on Netflix, so I threw that bad boy on and rewatched that one again. So I enjoyed that one as well. My daughter, she does dance, and tonight I took her to dance tonight, and every, I think, like 3 months, they do an observation night where the parents can actually go into the class and watch them do the dance, see what they're learning so far. Because normally they're in their room and the parents are sitting outside of the room in the hallway because they don't want any distractions. They want the kids to focus, on the teacher and things like that. So tonight was one of those nights. So I had planned on bringing my Vita and playing a game, and then I noticed, it's parent observation night. It's a good thing I came. So I went ahead and watched that instead of playing the games, which is fun. I mean, like watching Claire learn and listen and being in her element in dancing. It's kind of cool watching her grow up like that. So I enjoyed doing that. It's kind of better than just sitting in the hallway playing a game, even though that is also very fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You got a bronze trophy for being a supportive parent, so that's all good.
Only a bronze trophy? Jeez. So how many trophies are in?
It's just one observational class. It's not like you've observed every class for the whole year.
Okay, so hold on. So when do I get the platinum? How many? What kind of trophies do I need to get? What's a gold trophy?
Oh, you get
her graduating college or?
No, she did that, not you. Walking her down the aisle, gold trophy.
Oh, all right, okay.
And
that's all the trophies there are?
Well, I'm thinking. I haven't written out the
putting them on the spot there.
Man.
Clearly the platinum trophy is when you're on your deathbed and you're like, I love you, and she says I love you, and then you die. Ding, platinum trophy.
Hold on, wait. So I die and then I get the platinum trophy? Dang it, I can't even hear the ding.
Nope.
Oh, no.
No, you hear it like while you're floating away from your body. Maybe that's spoilers.
Okay.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
But then I can't share it.
Trophy.
I can't share my platinum trophy on social media after I die. I'd be like, hey, after I'm gone, can you do me a favor? Can you just go on my Twitter? Here's my username and password.
Yeah. Yes. She's got you covered. Don't worry. Claire will be looking out for you. No, probably when you have grandbabies, that would be a good platinum trophy when you become a grandpa. You've done all you can do.
So is this like a game where I get multiple platinums? Because I'm going to try to get them all.
Well, yeah, they stack between Claire
Pokemon.
and both Claire and your son, Superman Jr.
Oh,
Clark.
Okay.
There it is. I know I'd remember his name eventually.
Jr.
Like Superman Jr., Clark. It's all the same.
So, speaking of platinums, I did not get any platinums this week. It was the first week that I did not get any platinums in 2019. I am sorry.
Loser.
I'm slacking.
You are slacking, man.
I feel like you're way ahead of the curve, though. So
I know.
No. He said he was going to get 12 a month. That's what he said.
Holy crap.
No.
I'm going to go find those 45-minute platinums, and I'm just going to buy 30 of them. And I mean, that won't even get me through April. Anywho. I didn't get any platinums, so womp womp. But the reason why I didn't get any platinums is because I played a ton of Red Dead this past week.
Yeah, you got some work to do, my friend.
Yeah, I think I have 4 trophies left in Red Dead Redemption for the story mode, and then after I'm done with that, I'm gonna go on to the online. But the last 4 trophies are gonna be another 30 hours to get, because it's hey, you need to go find every single plant. You need to tame every single wild horse. You need to... And it's just oh my gosh, this is going to be just long and boring. So what I've
Yeah, it
been
is.
doing is I just turn it on, and then I'll turn on either Twitch on my phone or my laptop, or listen to a podcast while I'm doing it. So it's not too boring. But man, these are some just rough trophies to get. And I can see like the 2 trophies that I got were you need to skin all the animals in the world, and then also you have to
Wow,
study.
that's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
It's getting all the animals
Yeah.
in the world. It's like there's no animals left because you skinned them all. That's
Yes,
awful.
There is 6 billion species that I had to get.
That's too bad.
Yeah, it's just
Hope
like
PETA
these
doesn't
are-
find out about that.
When I got it popped, and I went in there like, oh sweet, okay. So I went and looked, and it's like 0.1% of all people who have played this have gotten that trophy. I'm like, yeah, no wonder. And it was only a bronze trophy. I'm like, this was a bronze? This should have been
Yeah.
a definite gold trophy. So, other than that, I played like Marc said, we played Anthem, and I had fun with it. But right now, I can't play another open world game. I've already got Red Dead, as far as open world. That sucks a lot of time away. So I'm going to hold off on Anthem. I kind of said previously that, I'm going to wait for a sale. And by the time it goes on sale, I'm going to buy another game. And then it's just going to one of those games that's just I'm going to miss. In my gaming catalog, so I'm not too worried about it. There's a whole bunch of other games that are out there that I'm gonna play. But yeah,
There's so many other games. I don't think it's worth forcing it. Like if it really doesn't tickle your fancy or get your attention, it is. What it is.
It was
you
fun.
never know what'll come up.
But yeah, I'll wait, and if it goes on sale, and a whole bunch of people are playing it. It's like one of those ever evolving, ever growing Destiny kind of games. Maybe, but I only played the demo. Like Marc said, it was only levels 10 to 15. I'm more of like a story guy, so I didn't get a lot of the story in the demo, or like a taste of the story. So the story might be cool. If it is, who knows? Maybe I'll just mainline it or something like that, and not worry about all the exploration. I might like rent it or GameFly it or something like that. But I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, that's me. How about you?
That's you. Well, I guess back to me. I guess it's come back to me. I'm the only one left standing to share some news. So, though it hasn't been too long since our last podcast, some things have been going on. For a variety of reasons, I started up some private English classes, conversation classes over the web, because I needed a little extra cash, and because a couple weeks ago, I actually had a dream, and ironically, it was a conversation with Jesus in my dream, just like I talked about last week in the 3 wishes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it was so weird, and I had made the connection before, but I didn't bring it up last week because it just didn't actually come to mind. But then during this past week, when I started up 2 separate classes with 2 people that I either knew personally or I had a personal connection with, a friend of theirs in a city I used to live in. And while I was talking to one of them, he was like, "Why are you even doing this conversation class?" And I just all of a sudden remembered the dream. And so in the dream, it wasn't anything elaborate. It was just I was hanging out with Jesus, and he's like, "So what are you going to do?" And I'm like, "I think I need to start doing some private classes in English." And he's like, "Okay." And then I woke up. It was that like less than 10, 15 seconds. And then I just woke up, and I was like, but it's weird because it was so vivid. It was and I think part of the reason I had the dream is because I've actually been resistant to do the private classes, only because I kind of sometimes find, which every week we do this, I kind of sometimes find video conferencing and Skype and FaceTime to be sometimes a little awkward, just because you have those moments where you're like interrupting each other, or you have those uncomfortable moments of silence. Like that. And so, yeah. And I don't like it. And I like to have face-to-face meetings with people. But I've had a number of people in different cities that I've lived in before, people I have friendships with, and they said, hey, if you ever get a chance, I really want to practice my English, and I'd pay you and all this stuff. And so it just, from that dream, it just really got me to thinking, and so I started doing it. And in addition to that, this past Friday I did some substitute teaching, did a little bit of glorified babysitting, and it definitely wasn't like the first time I did it last year when I wrote on the smart board and had a variety of mistakes that I made and things I did. It was actually only a few classes. It was supposed to be all day, but then the teacher got back early, and I got paid for the whole day, so that's always cool. But I also got to share a little short devotional with a couple of the classes that I had, and of course, I shared dad joke with them.
Nice.
I can't remember which one I shared with them. Oh, I shared the one that I shared on the Discord. What do you call a cow
the Snow White one? Oh, that one. Oh, okay.
Yeah. What do you call a cow that can't produce milk? You can either call it a milk dud or an utter failure. But and so I told them that one. The older kids that I had liked it. The 6th graders that I had, they did not understand what I was talking about. Once I explained it, they gave me a pity laugh, but that was about it. But that was the work front for me. On the gaming front, I just recently, today, got the platinum in Spider-Man. And
congratulations.
Nice.
Thank you very much. That was a really fun plat. I beat the game, as we talked about many episodes ago, last year, and I kind of took a break from it to do other things. And I was a little worried when I got back into it, because I'm like, what if I forget the controls? I'm not getting any younger, and remembering controls for games, I don't know about you guys, but it's really easy to forget how things control, and it's sometimes harder to pick it back up again in the middle of,
for sure,
what's going on. But one thing that kind of happened while my kids, and I'd shared this the past few weeks, while the kids were off from school, they just like to swing around as Spider-Man, and so they would swing around as Spider-Man, and then when a crime would pop up, I knew that I had to complete all the crimes in all the districts in the game. And so I'd be like, let me see the controller real quick. And then I would fight the guys, and then I'd hand the controller back and say, okay, continue swinging. And so we just got this
Look at that. That was
this
awesome
trade-off.
Tag team. Yeah.
We got this little trade-off where the kids would be like, Dad, there's a crime here. Fight him. Beat the bad guys. And it was really cool. So we did that. We've done that for the past couple weeks. And then I started doing some of the story trophies, and then all of a sudden I had done all the side missions. And I saw what I had left to do, and I was like, I'm not far away from the platinum. I just might as well jump in and do this. And, I took down the last few challenges. I was a little intimidated by the challenges at first. Like, when I first started the challenges, I could only get, 1 star out of the basic 1 star out of the 3 levels you could get. Like, you could get something amazing and ultimate. And most of the time, I could only get spectacular, I think. And I was like, man, these challenges are hard. And you have to get them in order to get the suits. And so I was holding those off to the end, and I got this run where I was just getting ultimate on all the challenges, and I got the suits, and after that it was all a breeze, I think. So this morning I streamed the last hour and a half, and all I did was swing around and did the crimes. I grinded the crimes to wrap things up. Tim Pollen was there with me, GMG Morning Crew. So he represented. And of course, while he was there, my chat broke, and we were actually chatting with each other through Discord. So he would write me on the Discord server, and then I would talk to him through Twitch. It was really
nice.
It was really janky, but I was like, you know what? Whatever works. Yeah, he started writing me on there. I'm like, that works. So besides Spider-Man, I also played the Anthem demo, and I got to play with our very own Jared Orr. And
Jared,
it was a good time because it was the first time I'd ever had a verbal conversation with Jared. I'd only ever typed with him or written with him back and forth on Twitter or Discord. And so it was cool to actually hear his voice and talk with him a little bit, try out Anthem because he hadn't tried out Anthem either. His voice was a lot deeper than I thought. I think because he's so much younger than us, it just automatically in my head, I didn't think he was going to be like, hey, it's me, Jared, how you doing? But I just didn't realize his voice was going to be so deep. And I was like, all right, yeah. He's got a nice,
you think Jared was going to sound like Mickey
voice.
Mouse or something?
Yeah, I was like, hey, pal, let's play Anthem.
Hey, pal.
Hey, ha. And so we started playing the Anthem demo, kind of went through it. We went through the first mission, and it was fine. I enjoyed the gunplay. I thought, one thing I didn't like automatically, like it was so open, and some of the villains that were kind of not villains, the enemies that were kind of moving around, the creatures and the other, I guess, people or robots that you were fighting. I had no idea what was happening story-wise. It kept telling us to do stuff, and I was just totally lost. And I think we had one guy in the group that had already done this mission over and over, so he was like flying ahead of us, hitting switches and doing things. I'm just like, Jared and I are like, what's going on? He's like, I think we're supposed to fly over here, and we would just fly over there, and we had no idea what was happening. But I really liked the gunplay. I thought that was good. Once I kind of got a handle on the artillery selection, at first I was just kind of pressing all the buttons because I saw in the corner where there was like triangle R1, but I had no idea what it was. So when we get near enemies, I'd just kind of press all the buttons at once, or just kind of press them each in tandem to see what would happen, and I'd just unleash everything I had.
Mash.
Yeah, just button mash. I was like, let's just see what happens. But I have to say, I was a little disappointed in the flying. I thought it seemed a little slow. Like, I felt like it needed to have some kind of afterburner when you're like out in the open and you need to have like a boost. And maybe it was because I was low level or I was just starting out. Maybe it's like that automatically. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they're going to have an afterburner or some kind of boost on it, but it made it kind of, I thought that was a little slow. And then I have to say, when you're in Fort Tartarus, you had mentioned the fort last week. Did that not feel like Assassin's Creed Black Flag? Like walking around like you're like a tank person? Like it felt totally,
like a different game.
It felt like a totally different game, but it was like in Black Flag when you would get out of the Animus and you're just walking around in the office and it feels totally stiff, like you're just a block figure.
Yeah.
You have no legs. You're like in a wheelchair or
Piece of
something. It's
tofu.
really weird. Yeah. So I thought that was a little weird. But all in all, I thought it was fine. It was cool to hang out with Jared, but for me, it's definitely not. I mean, outside of my resolution to not buy games, it's definitely not on my radar. Maybe if somebody twists my arm or it becomes free to play or I don't know. Something happens. I don't know. I'm more interested in trying this weird titled Apex Legends with you guys, that new Titanfall sequel that's not called Titanfall.
Without Titanfalls. Without Titans.
Yeah.
Yep.
Without Titans
I've
falling.
been, period. I was actually watching some Twitch streamers play the game, and it looks great. Like I'm legitimately excited to play it.
Now, to me, I saw the trailer, like the teaser trailer, and I was watching the live stream of the reveal, and to me, it looked like it was almost a cell shaded kind of look.
Yeah, it does. It does look like that.
I was like, maybe it looks like a combination between the Fortnite artistry and realistic graphics. Like they threw in like a little bit of like paint or cartoon or some sort of cell shading to make it look. I don't know. It looks different to me. I can't really put my finger on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that was probably deliberate. They tried to make it a little cartoony to go a little on the side of, try to push after the Fortnite crowd. But the actual gameplay is more in line with what you think of when you see Titanfall multiplayer.
Sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. So. And I like how they have like 8 different class characters, and you'll have abilities separate from what you find in the battle royale area, but at the same time you also have to scavenge, you also have to pick up weapons, and but it looks really cool, looks really fun.
One of the different mechanics in the game, like in any battle royale game, when you die, you're done. Your game is over. But in Apex Legends, if you die, you have the ability to come back and respawn. There's like 2 different things that your teammates have to do. They need to find like a crate with like a respawn orb or of some sort, and then throw that orb into a certain like area. And if you do that, then your guy gets dropped in again via the plane. But when that happens, it's just like the beginning of when you drop for the first time. You drop with no gear, no weapons. So it is
Yeah.
up to your team to actually give, whatever they don't need, whatever extra they have to this guy that teammate that they respawn, which is totally new to the battle royale genre.
Yeah.
And that's really cool because it's like usually if you're in a team and you die, you can jump out. If you're just playing with some randoms, you can just jump out and go into another game. It kind of makes you want to stick around and watch the everything play out.
Yeah, that does sound cool. And I read that along with that, you have the ability that I guess is not common in battle royale games to ping stuff. Like you can mark stuff on a map that it's outside of just telling people verbally. You can mark on a map where supplies are. So like if you respawn somebody, you can say, hey, go to the blue X that we just marked and you'll get all the gear you need. Or you can mark enemies. You can you don't have to talk to do it. You can mark it live on the map for your teammates. So that sounds pretty cool. It's kind of going the extra mile because Call of Duty Blackout, I mean, you can mark a single object, a single weapon, something. But from what you're saying, I didn't see that you can just mark like areas and multiple things. If you can do that, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I was watching a guy. If you see an enemy, you can automatically you don't have to open up the map and do it. It's just you click a button and I saw that guy right there, and it alerts you in the game. There's dialogue from the characters that say enemy spotted right there. So yeah, it was pretty neat to watch.
Cool. I can't wait to jump into that one.
I'm excited.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I also look forward to finishing up Dead Nation with my buddy Patrick. We got halfway through the game, I think, and we got through mission 5. So now we have 6 through 10 to go, and it's been good stuff.
Yeah.
Besides that was it. For me, unfortunately, I was quite disconnected from the Super Bowl. I did not get to watch. You have to definitely get a much higher package than I'm willing to pay for in order to get ESPN and watch the game. And in order to watch it, it's paywalled. So, however, tonight I did watch a lot of the commercials. Some of them were very lame. Some of them were disgusting, like the chunky milk commercial. I was not.
Oh, so gross.
I was not a fan of that. That was disgusting. Trying to think. I really liked the NFL one, the 100-year game, where they had all the different guys from
that was cool.
over the years.
Throwing the ball around the diner.
Yeah, throwing the ball around. And of course, it was funny.
That was sweet.
I was definitely showing my lack of attention over the past few years because there were some guys that they acted like I should know who they are, and I had no idea. And I felt like an idiot because multiple times Mindy's like, well, who's that? And I'm like, I have no idea. It's an NFL player. And then can you guys tell me?
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, I'll go ahead. Real quick, who was the girl at the end? Is she like the first woman to play NFL football, or was she just a random girl and a random woman?
They did have a female official, I believe, this year, and it could have been.
Oh, she might have been the female official. All right, I didn't know that.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I thought it was funny that Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mark.
I'm just gonna stop talking.
I'm gonna give you your chance. I forgot. I'm sorry. What did you?
No,
what
it's
did you
okay.
Like?
I just thought it was funny. The part where Tom Brady gets up and he's like, "Here, hold these," and you hear this. Clink,
oh,
clink,
totally.
Clink,
Clink. Oh yeah, we definitely laughed
awesome.
laughed about that one. Did you guys have a favorite commercial or even a trailer that you liked?
I had a favorite commercial. I actually can't remember what the brand was in the commercial, but it was all the text message conversations.
Oh, yeah.
Did you guys see those?
Oh yes.
So one of them was Dad sent me this recipe.
Yeah.
Dad sent me this recipe, and then he types in something
Garlic
recipe,
Parmesan.
and she's like, "Dad, this isn't Google."
Yeah, I thought that was funny. And then eventually she just sends the recipe. Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it because it was so simple, and yet it was so funny because it's so that's so real.
It's a relatable thing, Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my favorite one was the I think it was TurboTax. I want to say that was what it was.
Ooh, is that with the creepy baby?
Yes. He's like, I am sad.
Yeah, that part at the end was funny, but everything leading up to that, I'm like, this is a creepy baby face on a robot.
This is so weird.
Yeah, the first half of that commercial where he's like laying in bed or laying on something, and the creepy baby robot's like next to him talking to him. I thought it was gonna like kill him or do something crazy to him.
Some kind of horror movie.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was some kind of horror movie. Patrick, did you have a favorite?
One of the ones that I liked was this robot that was going around the city doing random things and dominating in everything that he was doing. I mean, he went to like a weight training facility and just like punched a punching bag, and and he was he was running past people, and then as he's running through the city, he's looking inside this bar, and everyone in the bar is like drinking whatever this. I think it was like Michelob Ultra or something like that.
Michelob Ultra.
And and he's just like looking through the window, and he just like sulks down. He's so sad, and it just says, if you can't enjoy it, or if you can't taste it, you can't enjoy it, or something like that. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
poor robot.
it's pretty much
just
like,
wants a
yeah,
beer.
exactly. That was awful.
I am sad.
It pretty much tells the robot, you might as well
yeah.
put yourself out of your misery because it's not worth living because you can't go in there right now. Like, it was so mean.
So he's a robot. I mean, geez, he just wants a post-workout beer. That's all he needs.
Now, there was another Michelob Ultra commercial where there was some lady in the Amazon or something? Was that also a commercial? Like, she was talking in microphones and like hear the organic sounds of like opening the beer. Was that a real commercial that happened? Do you guys remember?
I think I might have missed that one.
Yeah, I didn't catch that one.
Well, that commercial looked really awkward, but I saw where somebody took that. Is another Michelob Ultra commercial, and what they did is in the video of the commercial, they inserted audio farts to it. Just make it completely childish and ridiculous. But the commercial, you'll have to look it up, but the commercial like takes itself way too seriously. And it's just this girl, this woman, and she's with these microphones. She's like, listen to the sound of opening a bottle. And she opens the bottle and it's just like, kss. And then it's just this awkward silence. But in the video this person made, it's like, listen to the sound of the... And then it just like adds these random fart sounds and actually makes the commercial quite entertaining.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I think very close honorable mention, of course, were the extra footage trailers for Endgame and for Captain Marvel. I was pretty excited about that.
Oh yeah.
So one of the things, like, I didn't see the Endgame one because I closed my eyes and put my hands over my ears, and I was like, I don't want to see this.
It was so fast, though. It was only 30 seconds.
And from what I understand, all the promotional material, all the trailers that they're going to have out there is going to be only the first 15 minutes of the movie. So you're not going to know anything about the movie, and which is awesome, which is a great marketing tactic for a movie that almost everyone is going to go see. So
that is correct.
I like that.
I wish all the movie companies would take that and not show pretty much the whole movie in the trailers. That would be the smartest way to go. Because at this point, people are smart enough that if you can't show something good just based off of the first quarter or first fifth of your movie, then you apparently don't have that great of a movie if you have to show most of it in the trailer. But I think
you ever seen one of those trailers that look like? You ever seen one of those trailers that look extremely good, and then you watch the movie and you realize the only funny parts were in the trailer?
Exactly. Right.
It's basically, you've already seen those parts. Those are the only funny parts in the whole movie.
You're like, yes, I remember that, and then everything else is just downright awful.
It's nothing.
Yeah. There's literally nothing else that happens. Yeah. For sure. The other thing was Groundhog Day. I love me some Groundhog Day, but I definitely, since my week has consisted of 90 to 95 degree weather during the day, today was the first day that it's rained in probably a week, and man, it got cold here. I think it got down to like 70. And I was like, Ooh,
Yeah,
better
okay.
put on
Shut
the
up,
hoodies. Better put on a hoodie. It's getting cold outside. I had to close the windows. I was getting a little chill. Crazy. So
That would feel like the surface of the sun here in Ohio. Probably.
yeah, it probably would. If all of a sudden it was 70 there, like all the trees and just random things would
Oh man,
burst into flames, spontaneous combustion
everybody
all
be
over
melting.
the state of Ohio. My skin.
Well, it was like 2 days in a row. It was in the negative 20s and negative 30s, and all of a sudden it jumped up to 18 degrees. I'm like, oh, heat wave!
Heat wave. Man, it's hot outside.
Spring break, woo!
Woo, yeah. But, seeing everybody on Groundhog Day watching the movie, I didn't get to watch the movie. I was with my family the whole day, and I don't remember what Mindy and I did Saturday night, but I still, ran the movie through my head. I love that movie. Like Marc kind of shared in his elevator pitch, it's just a movie about an absolute jerk reliving the most celebrated day in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania history over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And then after multiple deaths and failures, he learns how to live. And even though it's a comedy, I remember watching that movie with Bill Murray and just thinking, man, it's both funny and when you get to the end, it just makes you feel good because he just learns a valuable lesson in life. And I don't know about you guys, but I remember the first time I watched it, it was I was surprised because, Bill Murray movies back in the day, they weren't inspiring. What About Bob was pretty funny, but Ghostbusters, it's mostly about entertainment and laughs for Bill Murray. So I think this movie is one of his, other than some of his newer ones like Lost in not newer ones, they're still old, but Lost in Translation and maybe some of the ones he's done as an older actor. But I really like Groundhog Day for that. And, with that, I think it's a perfect moment to jump into our topic of today's show, the great mystery of death and its impact on our lives. So the first question before we move on from Groundhog's Day is I was really curious to know, because as I was thinking about the holiday of Groundhog's Day and thinking about how he kills himself over and over and he has to deal with his own death, if you guys were Phil, how do you think you would have taken yourself out or tried to take yourself out?
What would be awesome is if
I don't know if that's how you should start killing
heist.
yourself. I don't know if that's how you should start about killing yourself.
What
It would be awesome if I killed myself like this. Okay, sorry.
It's like if he was in some sort of, because there was a point in the movie where he steals a bag of money from a brink truck, and
Yeah.
what if he was in some sort of a heist and like heat or something that he's in the middle of the street and he's just guns a-blazing, just shooting at everyone and the cops and just a firefight, and then it's just something like that. That would have been really cool, some sort of a rated R Groundhog's Day.
Rated R.
Nice.
All right. That would be quite a painful way to go. But that would definitely be an adrenaline rush, a way to go for sure.
Yeah, it would.
So
I
Patrick
mean, I'm
wants to
gonna
go out
dial,
on a
wake
heist.
up the next day. So
That's true.
6 more weeks of action.
Yeah.
I think for me, I would totally want to free fall out of a plane, no parachute, just to enjoy and see what it's like, knowing that I was about to die.
I feel like I would die as soon as I jumped out of the plane of a heart attack. I'd never even make it to the ground.
You're like, I can't believe I'm... And then you're just
Dead.
just a body falling down.
I'm doing this, babe.
Yeah, I think I'm the biggest chicken in the bunch because when I was thinking about this morbid thought, I was like, I think at least the first time I would be so afraid of the pain that I would just, because if you haven't seen the movie, he gets to the point where he's going crazy because he can't understand how he can escape this prison of living the same day over and over again. At first, he's loving it. He's taking advantage of it and living it up and doing things that, people do when there are no consequences to their actions. But eventually he's just like, okay, this needs to end. And he starts killing himself in many different ways. And I was thinking about like the very first time I would be the most scared, I would probably just go to the drugstore, steal some drugs, like, and just OD on them in my sleep. Like do something to where it would just put me to sleep and I'd feel no pain. I would Google like euthanasia drugs or something and just take something to just kind of drift off. Because you guys, the stuff you mentioned, like the pain you would go through, I know it would repeat the next day, but the first time he killed himself, he didn't know it was going to repeat. And so, I don't know. That's just my take on such things.
Mm-hmm.
Since we're going morbid, the mother of 3, Melanie Novosel, she wanted to continue such things. And she said this on Facebook. She said, it's grim to think about. Would you want to live on life support for a long period of time in hopes of coming out of a coma or other traumatic brain injury? My parents have put me in charge of making that decision in their will if ever the time came for them. And it's kind of scary to think about, and I don't think I want that responsibility. And focusing on ourselves, kind of going with the Groundhog Day deal and looking at death in our own lives, what do you guys think about that, being put on life support?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be on life support. Just pull the plug on me. Just get it over with. You know, like if I ever were to come out of, life support, I mean, what kind of life would I live? Would I even know who I was? Would I even be able to feed myself and have any way of life? So yeah, I would just pull the plug on me. Just right off, right out.
Yeah. Yeah, if I can't, like, if there's no chance of me living, period, and living well without the life support, I mean, you might as well just let the Lord take me. Just cut me off of there. Because, like, that's just not, it's not living at all.
Yeah.
So it's just not worth it. Is it a hard decision to make? Of course. But, there comes a point where it's just like you need to let go and let God in that situation. So.
Yeah, I completely agree. I would, I think the idea of like being on life support long term, like that's a scary thing, because there's so many outcomes that are unforeseeable. I would, I would want the plug pulled early.
Yeah, I'm. When we had our, what was that? Would you rather? This is kind of like an extension of the would you rather questions that we had a couple weeks ago. I am definitely not going to go against you guys because I'm with you. I don't personally for myself see, like, I know there's a fine line between doing things to, I guess, artificially preserve your life. Like, I don't know if it's artificial, but like, sometimes when we do certain things, like take a lot of medicine, like especially when we're older, taking cholesterol medicine or doing things that is kind of giving us the boost we need so we don't have a heart attack or don't have the kind of natural things happen. Like, I think that preventative medicine is definitely different than being on a machine. And so for me to have a machine keeping me alive, it's one thing to take medicines or do things that are kind of supplementing my body and helping my body continue to go. But if I can't stay alive and breathe without some machine pumping my lungs and that kind of stuff, I just don't see, for one, doing that to myself, that wouldn't be living, and two, putting my family through that. Like, I think of movies like $1 Million Baby with, and while euthanasia is a totally different discussion, and, the whole situation that they went through in that movie and people going through in real life, at the same time, the pain you go through, like the hope of something happening while at the same time, the hopelessness because it's just a machine keeping you alive. And so I would say for me personally, I would just say pull the plug or don't hook me up to life support to begin with. And I think, I don't know that I would go as far as say do not resuscitate, like try to give me CPR and those kind of things, but definitely I'd say no to the machine.
I mean, like you said, the strain that would be put on your family as you're laying there, on life support, unable to do anything other than just waiting, not only the emotional strain, but the monetary strain of having someone on life support. I mean, it can't be cheap to do that.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to put that, that kind of strain, both emotionally and monetarily, on my family. And it's just seeing someone in my family struggle or have a rough time because another person just hanging on by a thread. I just wouldn't want to put my family through something like that.
Yeah, for sure. So part of the reason, besides Groundhog Day the movie wasn't the only reason that, I thought we could talk about death, talk about the end of our lives, to talk about such a morbid topic. The other reason I really wanted to talk about it is because it's one of the inevitable things in life. It's one of the things we all have in common. I think what's the phrase? There's only two guarantees in life: death and taxes.
Isn't there three of them?
Are the three?
Death, taxes, and PSN outages.
Oh yes,
right.
Death, taxes, and PSN outages. Oh, the infamous PSN outages. Yeah, that's right. Sorry, they updated that one since I think 2009 when that happened. Yeah, so it's just the idea that, we have all this in common, and while sometimes it can be an uncomfortable subject, at the same time, when we're all uncomfortable together, it's kind of like when everybody eats garlic. When we all stink together, or when we're all uncomfortable together, I find that it creates this atmosphere of bonding, of connection, where the negative can actually bring you together.
When we all stink.
Yeah.
It just brings us together.
It brings you together, man. It's like, man, your breath stinks. Yours just does too.
Unity.
Solidarity with garlic. So now looking at a broader perspective outside of, pulling the plug or something of that nature, but kind of bringing it back in our whole life's experiences. What kind of personal experiences do you guys have with death? And I think it can range from like something serious to a family member or friend. And it can even be like when you were younger, your understanding through movies or through conversations. What have been those impactful moments or those moments in your life where you kind of understood more about death or you experienced death in some way?
So when I was thinking about this, my personal experience with death, I haven't had very close family members or very close friends that have passed away. Now, I've had family members. I've had my grandparents have passed. I've had friends that, they were friends, but they weren't like really good friends where I'm talking to them every week kind of friends. Mm-hmm. So I haven't really, had that impact, to me, to where it like really hit me, where I broke down and I couldn't think about anything else. But there was one time when I the death notion kind of hit me when I was 12. My mom's dad passed away before I was even born, so I couldn't be close to him. My mom's mom lived in another state, so I really wasn't close to her either. Mm-hmm. I was, a preteen, like living in another state, like I would only see her on like big, family gatherings, big holidays, things like that. So I wasn't really close to her. And then my dad's parents, they lived in Pittsburgh, so I only saw them on maybe once or twice a year, maybe. But my dad's mom had passed away, and I remember when I went to the funeral, and my grandpa, they had been married for like 50 plus years. They had been together forever, and my grandpa was just sitting there on a chair in the funeral home. And he was just sobbing uncontrollably. And I remember the one of the only things I remember that day was, as he's sobbing, he looks up and says, "She said she would wait for me." And I just looked at him. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine being together with someone for that long and knowing that you're gonna wake up the next morning and every morning after that, and that person's not going to be there.
Yeah.
And I was like, my goodness, I was 12 at the time. Like, man, I tell my wife, if not every day, but every it's very frequently, I just look at her and I say, don't die. Like I could not even imagine, we've only been together for, it's been 17 years. And
now is this randomly, like you're like walking through the mall and you just look at her and you're like, hey, Mel, don't die.
So something really triggers it. If we're watching a movie, one of those like sappy romantic movies,
oh, like your favorite, The Notebook,
or someone dies. That's one of the reasons why I hate it, because oh my goodness, like I put my myself in that guy's shoes, and his wife just doesn't remember him.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But no, that was my one, personal experience that really jumped out at me. And I still remember that to this day. It really, that's why I tell Mel, just don't die, don't leave me, so, that's my personal experience.
Just not allowed. Nope. Unacceptable. Yeah, I guess. I remember the first experience I guess I had with death was in '97 when my grandmother passed away. It was my dad's mom, and I can remember my dad sort of took me out back and sat me down by the stairs, and he's just like, yeah, unfortunately your grandmother passed away in the middle of the night, and I just remember she was close to me, but I mean, it didn't really hit me so hard, but it was just, that was kind of my real first experience with someone close to me dying. And at the time, I wasn't really that strong in my faith. So it didn't really occur to me, about the eternal
side of it,
idea of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was one of my first, I guess, brushes with death, and mainly my experiences with death has been with family members. My grandmother on my dad's side passed away, and then in 2011 my mom's mom passed away, and my dad's dad died in the same year. And that was rough because they had, for the most part, raised me. I mean, my parents were certainly there to raise me, but I mean, like these particular grandparents, because my dad's mom, like I said, died when I was very young, and my mom's dad died when I was like 2. So I don't even really remember my grandfather. But my mom's mom and my dad's dad, those were the grandparents that were really close to me, and really impacted my life. And so that was pretty hard. And then, of course, the last real death I've had to deal with was the death of my brother. He died, I want to say it was 2016. He passed away. And we were so far apart in age, but it was just very difficult because he was my brother. Sure, and we weren't, I wish that we were closer than we were. And it was just kind of hard to realize that somebody who was so young was gone. He was 43 when he passed away. But unfortunately he had a long struggle with drug addiction.
Yeah.
And there's a real bad problem with heroin mixed with a drug called fentanyl. And it's a really bad problem in New Hampshire, specifically where he was. And so, unfortunately, he passed away from an overdose of that. And it was more so, and especially when I was at the funeral, and there were so many people who were a part of his life that really knew him and had close experience. excuse me, close experiences with him, and I didn't really have that, and so that was kind of hard for me, knowing that I would never really have that because he was so far apart, not just in age, but I really wasn't allowed to hang around with him a whole lot because of his just issues with drugs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But those were my main experiences with death, for sure.
All right, I feel somber taking over the mic here, but I've definitely had a few experiences with death. One more than the others, but the first two experiences I had. Well, I'll start actually before that. So, did you guys have like a childhood pet that died?
Yes.
Like at any point during your childhood?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I had a dog that died, and he was 7 when he died. His name was Boomer. He was a big black lab. Well, he got hit by a car. That's kind of the first experience I think I'd ever had, really, with any kind of death.
How old were you?
And I was 17, maybe.
Yeah.
So I wasn't, he was basically my dog kind of growing
Right.
up. But, I was a little bit older then to deal with it. I remember I was still in high school at the time, and I came home from school the day after he died. And, I was the first one to walk in. Nobody else was home. And it was just completely silent.
Yeah.
And that, that, when Patrick, you were telling your story about, can you imagine somebody being there for 50 years and then just being gone? It's like, he was only there for 7 years. And, that silence was just like a deafening thing.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine what people go through to actually, get through that part.
Sure.
But my mom and my dad's dad have both passed away. It was fairly more recent, I guess, within the last 10 years, both of them. I was pretty close to both of them. So it was really tough. I think the toughest part about that was, seeing the grandmothers that are left behind, like that is difficult because the man, especially, with our grandparents and, their age and the era they grew up in was a very different thing. So, both of my grandpas on both sides, completely took care of my grandmas.
Yeah.
And, they were kind of the more the stay-at-home, moms and stuff like that. So, it's always hard to see them go. And, then, neither grandma has anybody to take care of them. So that was really tough. And this week when not this week, but this week when I decided to start, thinking about what I was going to talk about, this next story, I wasn't sure. Because I don't tell very many people. It's a very personal story. And a lot of people don't know it about me. So, in 2015, I was still married at the time. We were trying to have kids. We went through a couple miscarriages before my wife finally got pregnant. And she was pregnant with twins. And the twins were born at, I think, 23 weeks and 5 days or something like that. Or 4 days or something. So they didn't make it. But our baby girl, it was a boy and a girl. Our baby girl was stillborn, and our boy lived with us for about an hour. Mm-hmm. So we we're fortunate enough at least to get that little bit of time with him. But it was definitely an experience that just, I think, shaped me, more or less turned me into an adult, Yeah. And I learned a lot through that. And one of the things that came out of that is I realized, so in the moment after they had passed, the family and stuff was there. I think we were at the hospital for 2 days, we had a couple visitors or whatever. In that moment when we were at the hospital with all family and friends, the only one that could hold it together was me. And I can't describe the feeling of just being able to be strong, just kind of be strong for everybody else. And it was almost I felt like I was supposed to be there basically for everybody else at that time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it hit me differently, I think, than it hit everybody else. For me, there was a few months afterwards. That's when I started feeling down, and everything about it. Because I kind of just dealt with everybody else's problems and, tried to be strong for everybody else. And then a few months down the road, that's when it all hit me. But yeah, definitely, going through something like that, it I mean, you learn so much about yourself, like being in a situation like that. So yeah, it's definitely had its impact. Even now, the way I live now, I try to have fun and happiness and things like that. And I've always been very at peace with their passing. We were sad here on Earth, but normally that's the case. Selfishly, you want people to stay behind. But I never, almost immediately, it's like, they're in a better place.
Yeah.
So I was always able to have like that mentality going through there. And I know some people along the way, might lose faith and just, in general, kind of lose everything. But, so yeah, it's definitely something I hope nobody ever has to go through, because it was terrible at times. But
right.
Yeah, it's definitely, played a huge part, in my life. I can't, there wasn't a more important part of my entire life.
Yeah. It definitely marks you forever, for sure.
Yep.
But
that is that is all for me.
Okay. Well, I appreciate, your candidness and, sharing that, because I think that, and this kind of skips ahead to, what I'll definitely mention later, but just the idea that, you mentioned how you felt like in the moment of it happening, you had the opportunity to be strong and to help others. And I think that's one thing that, is one of the surprising things about death, is that it does make us stronger. And if we kind of, take a step back and allow ourselves to deal with the pain and rely on others and our family and friends, on God, and it can make us almost like just a beacon for hope, because you never know. Well, and for all of us, you never know who's going to face that same situation, and they're not going to be able to be strong, and you're going to be able to help them with that. I had that same experience. I've mentioned on the show before that when I was 11, my mom passed away, and it rocked my world, because I remember growing up when I was a kid, I was a typical, snotty little boy, just like a spoiled. I wasn't a brat, but I got whatever I wanted. I played outside and I lived a quote unquote perfect life. My dad had a great job. My mom worked at home or stayed at home with me, and she treated me like, even though I had a half sister, she treated me like, I was her only child. And so I was kind of like the center of her world, and she was, for me, the only person that I felt like accepted me for who I was. And so I remember the morning of, the anniversary of her death was January 27th. And I remember that morning when I was 11 years old, it was like 5 a.m. My grandfather was standing in the doorway, and the light was on in the hallway, and I just kind of was coming to, and I'm like, "Pap, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "Your mom's not doing so well." And I immediately got up, and when I came out of my room, I saw a variety of people there that I had no idea who they were, but I saw my dad crying on the bed and hunched over my mom, and I immediately ran in, and I think immediately I realized that it was more than just she was sick, that it was something more serious. And I don't remember at what point I realized that she had passed on, but I know that at the very beginning I was in shock. Like, my dad was crying, my dad lost it that whole morning. Our pastor came by, and he just lost it, and I just sat there on the couch, and I didn't know what to feel or what to do. And we went through the whole rigmarole of viewing, funeral, and it wasn't until the final service where we celebrated her life. We went to the church, we prayed, and we were walking out, and I knew it was the last time I was going to see my mom, and I lost it. I look back on it, and it was like straight out of a movie, where everybody's standing in the back, and it's just the dad and the son saying their goodbye. And I remember almost reaching out, and I realized in that moment what it was over, that I wasn't, at that time I wasn't a Christian. So like there was part of me, because I was raised in the church, that hoped that I would get to see her someday, but there was another part of me that said, this might be the last time you ever see her again. And, you know, that moment, that week, that changed my life forever. You know, like Ronnie said, I was never the same again. And in some ways it made me stronger. In other ways, you know, it scarred me. But I think the greatest thing that came out of it, it created an emptiness within me that when I realized that my mom was not the only one who accepted me for who I was, when I realized that there was a God that accepted me for who I was 100%, it was like the doorway that led me to know Jesus Christ, to know God, and to understand grace, and to understand, you know, that about being a Christian and those kind of things, being beyond religion, beyond going to church, all those kind of things. Like it was within the same week of my mother's death that I heard God's voice, not literally, but I heard God speaking to me and inviting me to know Him. And so for me, I have I think an experience with death that made me grow up. That's the other thing that Ronnie mentioned that I thought about, that it makes you grow up like the snap of a finger.
For sure.
When it's like really, when it hits you really close to home, you know, it made me grow up. Like I look back when I was 11 and below, and I was this goofy kid. I laughed about everything. I didn't take anything seriously. And then all of a sudden, when that happened with my mom, it just, the serious side to me, this side to me that, you know, thought about things and considered other people, you know, it really changed me. And then later on in life, like my great aunt, that was that kind of aunt, that kind of family member that would just take me and her, and take me to the mall. Like probably 5 or 6 years later, she got cancer. And I remember sitting with her probably a week or two before she passed, and I just started talking to her candidly about death. Now, she wasn't very comfortable talking about it for very long, but, you know, it was something that I realized in that moment that I had gotten maybe in some ways a little too comfortable with death, because I was asking her questions that she wouldn't know the answer to, but I was just thinking out loud. And, you know, it's something for me that I think because of my experiences, I'm not afraid of it, but at the same time, it's something that I always see as an opportunity to connect with people, even though in its very nature it disconnects us from people. I think it's something that through God, it's something that can help bring us closer together in some ways. And then when I moved to Brazil, probably 3 years after, my grandmother passed away, and that was really hard. But actually, most recently, I would say that death kind of came knocking on my door, I guess, in the sense, not in a sense of a personal death, but in terms of, I found out this past weekend that someone I worked with when I lived in the U.S., she passed away actually at the end of November. And she was somebody, along with her husband, that I talked to them a lot when I worked with them, and it just hit me. This was just a couple nights ago, I think Sunday night. Well, I guess that would be it was Saturday night. Saturday night, I found out about it, and you know, I wrote him, and he's not a Christian, and I just was like, I just want to let you know that I know where you stand with God, like in terms of, you know, he's open about it. And so I knew where he stood, and he knows where I stood. And I was just like, but I want you to know that you're not alone. And, you know, it's just something that, I don't know. It was a little, to me, it was a little ironic, I guess, that we were coming up on this time together, and then that happened. But I just felt like it was I automatically realized it was a moment to connect with someone and to really just reach out and pray for him, talk with him. And so that's been some of my, you know, experiences with death. We have a couple people in our group, in our Discord group. They didn't quite have personal death experiences, but they did kind of have afterlife death questions or some things that they've thought about or pondered about, and they wanted to have us do the same with them. So we first had a message from Travis Popsicle, or Traffic Popsicle, however you want to call him. Either one works. I think Travis Popsicle is what's on his driver's license. He said, "Have you ever had an experience with a ghost? My father died when I was 5 of leukemia, and I swear I sense him around me sometimes, along with my grandmother who died on a couch where my kitchen is at right now." So, what do you guys think about that? I'll start. So, Travis, when I read this question, I immediately thought of my grandmother who's still living. She's in Ohio, in Toledo, Ohio. And every now and again, I talk with her, and she mentions that every time a cardinal flies around the house, or she sees a cardinal while she's walking or going somewhere, she feels like that's my mom visiting her and telling her that she's okay, that everything's all right. And I don't get into the details of, when she says that, I don't say, "Do you really think it's my mom?" Or, I don't get into if she really thinks it, or if it's really right to think that a person's soul is in an animal or something like that. But I will say that I think God sometimes allows us to see things and feel things so that we can be comforted. And if he uses a cardinal, if he uses a couch, if he kind of makes you feel through your memory or through, some kind of nostalgic thing to make you think about a family member, I think that's vital. I think that's a part of being human. For me personally, I don't have a strong belief in ghosts per se, like a literal spirit of like my mother hanging out with me in the room. But at the same time, I know that at least based on, and that's mainly based on my experience. I've never really had a ghost experience, but at the same time, I know that in the Bible, it talks about the people that have gone before us, the people that have passed, that they're praying for us, that they're lifting us up in prayer to help us and encourage us. And if God makes us see a vision or make us feel a presence, we can try to argue till we're blue in the face that they're literally there or literally not there. I think it doesn't really matter as long as you're comforted in that moment, or you're brought closer to God, or you're inspired to live your life in a better way for that loved one. So that's just my 2 cents on that. So now, did that give you guys long enough to think up your own thoughts and ideas?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had an experience with quote unquote ghosts before. I've heard people that have had, my brother, he had that weird thing in his house where chairs would just move in front of doors, TVs would turn around, things like that. I had talked about that on a previous podcast, one of our episodes. But one thing that comes to mind is my wife, when she was young, she was having a sleepover with her brothers and cousins, and her grandpa had passed away. And in the middle of the night, I believe it was the middle of the night, my wife had woken up and she looked over at the rocking chair and she noticed like a silhouette or a shadow of some sort that was in the shape of her grandpa. And he was sitting there rocking back and forth, watching over them. And she thought that was a little strange, but she went back to bed. And then when she had woken up the next day, she had started to talk about it, and then one of her cousins said that she saw it too. So it's just strange. I don't know if it was just because it might have been a dream. They might have had some parallel dream or something like that, or maybe it was just shadows from the lights from the street or something like that made it look like that. But they found, like you said, a little bit of comfort in the fact that they felt like their grandpa, who they were very close with, was kind of watching over them a little bit.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that really comes to mind because I don't really have any personal experiences like that.
Yeah, I would go along certainly with what Lucas, you and what Pat, you're saying. I don't particularly subscribe to the whole ghost thing. I don't believe that to be the case, that there are spirits of dead people walking around. That's just not something, especially from a biblical perspective, that's not something I agree with. You hear, at least in circles in Christian circles and stuff like that, to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. And so, there is no limbo, I guess, or hanging about, at least, from a biblical perspective. And I've never had any experience with ghosts. Now, do I believe that there is a spiritual realm? Of course I do. And are there forces, whether that be, demonic or angelic or whatever, forces at work? For sure. So in that sense, I guess I believe in the supernatural, and obviously I'm a Christian, so I believe in that spiritual realm. But yeah, I don't necessarily subscribe to the idea of ghosts, but definitely I'm sure God, like Lucas has said, brings us moments of reminders of our loved ones to bring peace into our lives. I guess there was one situation, and I don't really know if it was really a ghost thing or just something that happened to be coincidence or whatever. My grandfather, my mom's dad, he passed away in 1992. I believe he had lung cancer. He passed away. And my grandmother, after many years of living in this house, decided to finally sell the house that they were living in, that she and my grandfather bought. And they were moving the washer and dryer, and they found this jewelry button, like one of those little like ring box kind of things, or earring box or whatever. And inside they found 2 quarters, and they were both from the year 1992, which was, or was it? Yeah, it was 92, the year that he passed away. So I don't know what that means. If it really means anything, I don't know. Maybe it was just God bringing comfort. I don't know. But I guess that's the closest thing I could somewhat associate. But I don't know. But other than that, I just think that, yeah, that's what I feel in terms of the biblical perspective.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, and I think I for the most part, I don't know if I say I believe in ghosts. I believe there are spirits, and there is a lot of unexplained things. So I would say that I'm a believer in that.
Sure.
I have only had one experience. Unfortunately for me, it was a negative experience. I had went to bed a little bit earlier than my wife, and I think this was maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. I had went to bed, and when I woke up, I was laying in bed, and there was like a shadowy figure, like the figure of like a man, like broad shoulders, and he had, like, I just assumed that it was a man because of the broad shoulders, but I couldn't breathe, and I realized quickly there were like hands covering like my mouth and my nose, and I panicked. Right, I couldn't breathe, I couldn't move my body, and I remember looking around, like I'm looking around the room, like hoping, like, I don't know, like one of my dogs ran in or something, and I was like in a total panic, and all of a sudden it was completely gone, and I sprung up and took like a deep breath because I felt like I couldn't breathe. So I took this deep breath, like I had almost just like gone. And I was totally freaked out by it. I even walked out and talked to my wife, like, hey, did you like hear anything? Like, you know what I mean? And I was so confused by what had happened. And I was so aware at the time that I was awake.
Yeah.
That I was completely awake. And obviously now that it's like past, I do like question that. Like, was it really a dream? But what I will tell you is that if you look almost that exact story up online, there are thousands of people who have had that same experience. And these people started describing it. And I'm reading it, and it's like, man, this is the exact thing that happened to me. And like, I felt a little bit less crazy after reading all these people's stories that were almost identical of being like strangled by like a shadow figure. So it was a crazy thing, and I really can't explain it. I know like that it was a sleep paralysis like situation where I believe that I was awake, but I was completely paralyzed. I couldn't move.
Yeah.
So it was it was a scary experience for sure though.
Yeah, I've definitely had a couple moments of encountering spirits, and very similar to what you kind of experienced, Ronnie. And it's definitely been a matter of where I was completely aware that I was awake, and I did a lot of praying. I did when you have to shut your eyes, that's not something you normally do in a dream, or maybe you do, but it just you know you're awake, and then you feel or see some kind of shadowy presence. It's definitely scary, but thankfully as Christians, we have the power of prayer, we have the power of the Holy Spirit to protect us, and that can be stuff that you definitely don't want to mess with. Speaking of those kind of spirits and those kind of situations, VP Barnaby Butters, he had this to share on the Discord. He said, "This story is actually my mom's story, and she calls it her why you should never ever play with a Ouija board story." And so some context. He said, my family from my mom's side, all Catholics, raised Catholics, all attended a Jesuit junior and high school, same as my uncles and my grandparents. At the same time, my mother's mom's family has this trait that they can predict things or feel stuff. He says he does have an aunt that makes a living out of reading things over the phone, which is weird and probably not a very Catholic or Christian thing to do. But enough of that context. When my mother was a teenager, she and her cousins decided to play with a Ouija board, making dumb questions and asking dumb things. And then according to my mom, they finally in the end got a message about picking up somebody. Someone was going to pick up somebody on a date a few months down the road. Well, time passed and she forgot all about it. And then one day the phone rang, and it was her grandfather's assistant at work. He was a military dentist, and they had called to inform them that he had passed away. And later they discovered in the autopsy that it had been a clot in his head. So he'd had a stroke, and it was painless, and he passed in his sleep. Funeral arrangements were done, and all was taken care of. And she realized that the date that her grandfather passed was the same date that she had gotten from the Ouija board. And that is why you never ever play with a Ouija board.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is creepy.
I have never even been tempted to play with a Ouija board. I've seen it in movies. I've talked with people that owned one. I think I hung out with a friend once that had it in his closet, or his parents had one, and I was like, nope, not going near that. You guys have any Ouija board experiences?
No, I've never played with one.
I feel like I'd be scared to death to play with one.
Yeah.
That's exactly why I haven't played with them. No,
I would be so nervous.
Ouija board is what you get when Milton Bradley works with the devil. That's what happens.
Yeah. Well, moving on to, I think, more, I guess more current ideas. When you're talking about death, you're either talking about the past or you're talking about what you hope is the distant future. I want to kind of come to the end of our death discussion by doing a little thought study. I don't remember where I originally heard this thought study or this meditation, this idea that I'm about to ask you guys. But the question or the situation goes like this: you have passed away, and you have the opportunity to hear what people have to say at your funeral. And so how this how this kind of meditation or this kind of brainstorming session goes is, what do you want people to say at your funeral? It's kind of the idea of not, I guess you could say, what do you think people will say at your funeral? But I think it's better to go more towards what you hope they will say at your funeral. So think about your parents, and I think it would be good for each of us to, in what we want said at our funeral, that you mentioned, whether it's a parent, a sibling, your wife, your kids, friends, even coworkers or boss. Like, be as specific as you can. You can, of course, talk in general, but I think the more specific you can be, I think the more you glean from this kind of little practice. So who wants to start talking about their funeral?
I'll go ahead. I'll go first.
Go ahead, Mark. Let's hear it.
So what do I want said at my funeral? That's the question?
Yep.
Okay. So basically the fact that, that I loved God and I loved other people well, and that I brought smiles to people's faces, and that I was able to humble myself and serve them as much as I could. That would be the biggest things that would, I would like to be said at my funeral. Hopefully I can live that out in that way, but just someone who was compassionate about other people, or for other people, and lived as Christ. So that's pretty much what I want said.
Cool.
It's a pretty good one. I'll go next. I took this almost like in a whole different way than Mark did, because I was thinking, okay, at my funeral, like, I personally, generally the way that I live now is, I just really live to have fun and, do the things that make me happy. And I think at a funeral, I would want people to tell stories about like fun times we've had, like the good things that I've done, even some of the crazy things that I've done, get everybody laughing a little bit there. Like some of those stories I feel like have to come out, liven up the room a little bit.
Yeah.
But, no, I think I would want, people to tell stories about having fun with me, and, some of the good things I've done and some of the bad things, just get some laughs.
All right. It's a good one. How about you, Patrick?
Well, for me, I am hoping that this is happening way down the road. I want my kids to be able to say something. I want my kids to be older, because like you, Lucas, I want to be able to see my kids grow up. I want to be there for all of their milestones, like graduations and marriages and their kids. I want to be a grandfather.
Right.
I want to have all those experiences, and I want my kids to be up there saying like, what a good dad I was, what a good granddad I was. I don't know what they're going to call me. They're going to call me Papa
Pappy?
or
Pappy?
Popeye.
Grampy?
Yeah, I mean, like,
If you're extra
them-
lucky, your grandkids will make up their own special name that no one's ever made up just for you.
Mm-hmm.
and that's what they usually do.
Yeah.
Like, when they're like 2 years old and they're trying to say grandpa, it's never gonna come
No,
out
it's like
grandpa.
Greepaw.
That's why you get the Papo and the Poppy and the
Yeah.
and the G-Paw, So
I hope they call you Grandpoop.
But yeah. If they call me Grandpoop, I don't think I would balk at that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that sounds magical.
Just signing cards for their birthday.
Yeah.
Love Grandpoop. Yeah, like stuff like that. I want to be able to live long enough where I could be Grandpoop, and where my kids, they're up there. They say something, like that. I was never materialistic. I was always there for them when they needed me. I want to be known for. I want them to say how the emotional side of me, not just the funny side, because obviously I like to make jokes. I like to liven up things. I don't like to be serious all the time. Because what they say. Laughing. Smiling. That's the best medicine. Just because it's really what people need is smiles and laughter to get through tough situations. But they also need to be serious. But I want them to talk about my emotional side because I'm not great at a lot of things. I'm not a celebrity. I don't make millions of dollars being a football player or baseball player. What I do is I have a job. I put money. I put money on the table. I put food on the table.
$20 at a time. You're putting money on the table. Here it is.
Yeah, exactly. I provide for them, and which allows my wife to stay home. I want them to say that I put the family first. So yeah, that's what I want them to say at my funeral.
Cool. Yeah. That's good, and I definitely resonate with. I was thinking about what I want my kids to say, what I would want my kids to say at my funeral, as well. And I also echo the hope and prayer that they will be older, that they will have grandkids, that I will have.
They will have grandkids.
Wait.
Or
yeah, they will have grandkids.
Okay, sure.
I'll have great grandkids. I used to tell Mindy back when I first met her and we were in college, I said, in the Bible it says that at some point God says, okay, your limit is 120 years. And I told her from day one, and I was like, I want to live to 120 years old. So now I will say that over the past decade or so, I haven't been doing very good on my part, like eating right and exercising and all that stuff to help prolong that. But here's hoping the Holy Spirit will somehow keep me going, and I'll wise up and start exercising more and eating better. But I really hope that if my kids would be put in that position, that they would be able to say with confidence that they know where I am, that they would be able to say with confidence that they're going to see me again someday, and that they would say that because of what I did as a father in their life, that they know their true Father in heaven, and that they will feel comfort in knowing where I am, and that they would so clearly understand the love and the wisdom that I received from my father and from God that I passed on to them, that they would so clearly know it that they would pass it on to their kids. And my prayer and hope would be that my wife would say that I was her partner in crime, her soulmate, even though we don't really believe in quote unquote soulmates, like God chose only one person. We feel like God gives us the freedom of choice, and that He'll prepare people for you, but He won't exactly say it has to be this person or nobody. It's more of a, you choose who you love, and God will bless it and guide it and be with it. But at the same time, that because of the strong love that we had for each other, that we were each other's soulmates, and that we were, that we will see each other again. And I just hope overall that my funeral is a celebration, that it's not just, oh, he died tragically, or it's a sad event where everybody's crying. Of course, everybody has to deal with the emotions and cry, but my hope and prayer is that it will be a celebration, and that, my friends, my coworkers, people in the church, or people that I interact with on a daily basis, people I interact with through the podcast, that it would be that he was a guy that helped me to laugh, like you guys said, to see the brighter side of life, but also that he challenged me to know God more and to walk with God. And so my greatest hope is that at my funeral, that people will say that I was a light for God, that it wasn't so much about me, but it was about God shining through me. So I would say that would be what I would want said at my funeral. And I think that a good follow-up that we're not going to answer, but just to think about, is that the things that you said, the things that you mentioned that you want said at your funeral, I think the logical follow-up and the best follow-up to what you want said is, what are you doing about it now? You know, how are you being what you want people to say that you were or you are? And I think that's why this question is so powerful, even though it can be kind of morbid, and it's like, man, people at my funeral, I don't want to think about death. I want it to be far away. But at the same time, the whole thing about death is that it can make us better and make us stronger. You know, you think about, in Groundhog Day when Phil is just like dying over and over and doing whatever he wants. Eventually he realizes through those deaths that maybe there's something more to his life, and he starts to improve himself, and he starts to help people, and he starts to give to people. And I think our own mortality can be a springboard when we realize it and understand it and experience it. It can make us appreciate what little we sometimes feel we have. And I think in talking about our deaths, it can be a way to inspire us to live better and to live in a way that we make choices based on what we want people to say at our funerals. And so I think it's a really good thought process. And I hope that, if you're listening right now, that you'll write it down, that you'll talk to your spouse or talk to a friend and kind of just ask them the question and share with them the answer for you. What do you want said at your funeral? One of our friends, one of our super listeners, Chad, he said, I want Chad Fackler. He said,
Yum.
I want someone at his funeral. He said, I want someone to freak out and scream at my funeral, "Holy crap, he's still alive." And then he said underneath, he said, "Only say this if you need a little comedy bit."
And then they follow it up with, "Oh, no, wait, false alarm, he's dead. He's dead."
Oh, wait, I will have to say, on a side note, even though I've dealt with a lot of personal death in my life and I'm very comfortable talking about it and dealing with it, I still, when I go to funerals, there's a part of me that when I look at an open casket that I feel like they're going to like open their eyes and look at me or pop up.
Boom.
Like I just have this, just have this feeling in the back of my head. Yeah, they're just going to be like, surprise! Like, just like, I know it's not going to happen, but at the same time, I'm just waiting for it. And it kind of creeps me out sometimes, but maybe that's just me.
That's
No,
how the
it's not-
zombie
that's totally not just
apocalypse
you.
No.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally not just you. I do the same thing. Mine's like a little more horrible, but I'm always like wait for them to just open their eyes, and then it's gonna be like one of those like zombies first reanimation.
Oh, no.
Where they have like the crazy colored eyes, and I'm just gonna be bolting out
And
of
you're
there.
going to be like, see ya.
Yep.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, you definitely took that more zombie-ish than I have. VP Barnaby Butters, he said, I believe funerals are for the living. He said, the soul passes on, and the people that stay need to celebrate, not mourn. So when I pass, I don't want you guys to be depressed. I don't want my family to be in all black, all sad. I would like everybody to look back and be happy for the time we shared, and be happy for me that I'm out of here, and I'm moving forward to the next step of my existence. And be sure I will be waiting for them, and waiting for you, wherever we need to go, to keep having fun and sharing experiences together.
Well said.
Cool. Yep.
That is a good one. And also another part of that, he said, I don't want everybody to be wearing all black. How awesome would it be if everybody dressed like they were going to a cruise?
Yeah, like
to your funeral.
Hawaiian shirts.
Everybody had to wear like Hawaiian button-up
Yes,
shirts.
that would be awesome.
Yeah, that's.
I have a shirt.
All right. Yeah, Barnaby, make sure you put that in your will for your funeral.
Yes.
Everyone wears just like bright colors.
Hawaiian shirts.
Yeah.
Open
80s
bar.
windbreakers.
I actually have the shirt that I want to be buried in. I've already told my wife. It's a bright orange shirt that has Jesus on it in yellow, and the shorts are orange, like I said, and it says "Sweet Savior, King of Kings." It's a Reese's color shirt. It looks like Reese's chocolate, but that's the shirt. That's the shirt that I want to be buried in. This is bright orange shirt that says Jesus on it.
Classic Christian tea.
Yeah, that's right. So, with that, I think we're gonna wrap things up and kind of share our last moment inspirations. Any last thoughts we have? I'm sure Marc maybe has some nice music for us. Hopefully not all depressing,
This was really
morbid
awkward.
music, but hey, yeah, I bet it was.
It's all death metal.
I bet it was.
It's really awkward to like look up songs about death. I'm like, okay, and we're gonna add this to a Good Morning playlist. But I picked a few. And as always, you can look up the Good Morning Guys morning playlist on Spotify. You can check that out anytime you want. So the songs that I picked, and two of them are kind of funny, and the last one is very serious. But the first couple are I'm gonna put up Guns N' Roses' "Knocking on Heaven's Door." Just
All right,
because
that's a good one.
I thought about doing Bob Dylan's version, but his is kind of boring compared to Guns N' Roses' version. So yeah, I'm putting Guns N' Roses' version up there. And then I'm putting up Blue Oyster Cult's "Don't Fear the Reaper." Yeah,
Awesome.
Oh, it's a good one.
That is a good one.
because it's a good song and it makes you think of Will Ferrell with a cowbell.
Gotta have more cowbell.
I got a fever. The only prescription. Okay, never mind.
Good
And
old Christopher Walken.
yes, and then the last song that I'm going to add, it's Jars of Clay's version of a song called "All My Tears," and it's serious because it is the song that I want played at my funeral, and so if I may, I'm just going to read a few lines from the song, and then you'll see why I want it played at my funeral. So it says, "When I go, don't cry for me. In my Father's arms I'll be. And wounds this world left on my soul will all be healed and all be whole. Sun and moon will be replaced with the light of Jesus' face. And I will not be ashamed, for my Savior knows my name. It don't matter where you bury me. I'll be home and I'll be free. It don't matter where I lay. All my tears be washed away." So, something I definitely want played.
Nice.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's the songs I'm gonna add to the Good Morning Guys morning playlist.
I
Sounds
thought you were
great.
going to add something like that Pearl Jam.
Last kiss.
Where, oh, where can my baby be?
We could do that too. Yeah, for sure.
That is a
Yeah.
great song, though.
Also a good.
Patrick,
song.
I feel like you just did like a country.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
Where my baby
Yes.
be?
You had a little bit of a twang.
The Lord took her away from me.
It's kind of hard to pull off an Eddie Vedder though. It's like,
Eddie Vedder, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
I will
distinct
say-
voice.
To if there was any way to recommend a movie revolving around death that I think is perfect for children and adults alike, it's Pixar's Up.
oh yeah.
Oh, gosh. The first few minutes of that movie.
Now,
Jeez.
oh yeah, the first 15 minutes give you like the heaviness.
It's
of
not
death.
even first 15
Like-
minutes. It's like the first 5. You're just like, oh my god.
Is it the first 5?
It is early.
Yeah, you pretty much go through this couple's like meeting each other and their life, and kind of just breezes by, and then all of a sudden, boom, she's dead. And yeah, and so that like sets up like the harshness of death and dealing with mourning and those kind of things. But the whole rest of the movie, you know, I think what's great about Pixar is they're great at kind of, in a healthy way, distracting you. Like they have this little chubby Japanese kid, and they have this big bird that squawks and eats tennis balls. They have these talking dogs, and all this stuff happens. But throughout this movie walks you through like dealing with death, because by the end of the movie, the main protagonist, the old man who lost his wife, like he pretty much comes to the realization that her death isn't the end of the adventure. The adventure continues because of her life, and you know, he finds the photo album that they had with the memories, and she puts in a bunch of photos that he didn't know about, and at the end says, "Go keep living your adventures." And you know, it just is it's such a good inspirational movie in that regards. And so I recommend that, you know, everybody, you know, watch that with your kids, and if it's applicable, talk about death, talk about life. You know, honoring people's memories and making the most of the time we have. It's definitely super, super important. So, And that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, that's all for this good morning, this good morbid morning that we had together. Remember, everybody, to connect with us on those social medias and maybe even leave a review on iTunes. We are 3 away from me doing something crazy, but the only way you're going to find out what that crazy thing will be is to get us up to 15 total reviews. So we're looking for some stars, looking for some words. Catalina the Great was the last one. It's going to be hard to follow up Catalina, but I'm sure you can do it. Also, if you'd like to join in on future episodes or connect with us with our community, but you're not sure how to do this, check us out. You can check out the show notes found in the podcast details that have all of our info on our Discord server, Twitter handles like at the GMG Podcast, our email. You can even call us at which number, Patrick?
929 GMG guys.
That's right. Good job. I thought you were gonna forget for a second.
I did. I was like,
yeah, I could tell you were like,
rate us on iTunes.
867.
Yes,
5309.
that's right. 8675309. My kids love that song. Yeah, call us 929 GMG guys. You can leave a message. You can even leave a message to intro the show, or just ask a question. It's up to you. So surprise us. We'd love it if you called in. Beyond that, we look forward to talking at you again next week on podcast services around the globe as we talk about our most cherished and outrageous elementary school stories. Let me tell you, it was not all fun and games back then. There was a little drama, a little betrayal, and plenty of playground politics. But you'll find out more about that next week. So Pat, Marc, Ronnie J, and you listeners, our friends and family, go get your good morning this week. May God bless and guide your lives as you live, work, and game. Dios te bendiga en esta vida y más allá. Ciao.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You should have done the whole close in the Mickey Mouse voice.
Okay, kids. May God bless and guide your lives as you live, work, and game.
Oh,
Totally.
Go get your good
Totally
morning
need to
on.
open the next show like that.
I should have just switched into a goofy and just be like, God bless you and guide your lives as you live, work, and game.
Gosh.
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 Or I should have just gone into the Donald Duck and be like, I can't even do Daffy Duck or Donald Duck. All I can do is go. All I can do is his mad sound he makes.